Hey guys, Trip here, and like many of you, I love Grand Theft Auto. Sure, it's controversial, sure, it's violent, but it's a series with fun gameplay, interesting characters, and presents a rather poignant parody of American culture. It's also famous for its sprawling open worlds and the freedom you're given to interact with them. However, unlike previous installments, I found myself getting bored of GTA 5's open world rather quickly, and I couldn't quite put my finger on why. The story is great, the gameplay is fun, and the world is incredibly immersive. So what gives? Well, I think it might have something to do with the free roaming experience. You know, the stuff you do in between the missions. Exploring, driving, minigames, psychotic killing sprees, free roaming is my favorite part of any open world game. A good free roaming experience can keep me playing a game for years, while a mediocre one will likely cause me to put the game down the moment I finish the story. It's always been hard to pin down what makes some open world games better than others, and I want to get to the bottom of it. So what makes a good free roaming experience? What is it that immerses us in these open worlds and keeps us playing for years to come? Well, let's take a look. The most obvious thing that engages us with an open world are the side activities and minigames. Going to a bar and playing a game of darts, playing chess at the park, winning a triathlon, base jumping off a skyscraper, minigames are the glue that hold an open world together. In a lot of ways, minigames are the unsung heroes of the free roaming experience. I generally overlook them when they're there, but I sorely miss them when they're gone. An open world often feels empty and artificial after a while unless we're given something else to do. Minigames break up the monotony by diversifying the gameplay and reminding us that we're living in an actual world where everyday activities go on with or without our input. But side activities alone can't create a viable free roaming experience. Watch Dogs, for example, is filled with minigames, and some of them are actually pretty fun. But many felt the world was lifeless, boring, and sterile. So how do we fix that? Simple. You just have to create a lifelike, painstakingly detailed simulation of a fully functioning society and ecosystem. Okay, so maybe it's not simple, but creating an immersive open world is essential to the free roaming experience. The player needs to feel like they're actually existing in the world, and that the world exists without them. The people around you should have lives, they should engage in activities and have purpose in the world. Locations should feel lived in, somewhat disordered and natural. The goal here is for the player to forget they're playing a game. Basically, we want something between this and this. Red Dead Redemption is a perfect example of an open world. You step out of the hot sun and into a dingy saloon full of drunk outlaws flirting with hookers, shady figures playing cards, and prohibitionists screaming outside about how we're all sinners, all to the beat of an inebriated pianist playing in the corner. The atmosphere is palpable. You can almost feel the dust and smell the cheap booze as you step up to the bar and ask for a shot of whiskey. Everything from the sound design, to the AI, to the art style immerses me in the world of New Austin, and it never gets old to me whenever I come back to the game. The Elder Scrolls IV: Oblivion is another game that accomplishes this in a much more subtle way. You may not notice it at first, but every single NPC in Cyrodiil has a life, a job, and a daily routine. They have friends and enemies, they have secret lives, secret affairs, they go on vacation and visit family on the other side of the country, and it all happens without any player input. Sure, it was incredibly buggy, rudimentary, and came with a lot of flaws that took you out of the experience, but Oblivion's world was definitely on the right track when it came to creating an environment that felt real. But even the liveliest and most immersive open worlds are useless if the gameplay gets repetitive. This takes us to possibly the most important aspect of any free roaming experience: the core gameplay loop. What are you spending the majority of your time doing, and is it satisfying? No matter how realistic the world or how many minigames you stuff in it, if the core gameplay isn't satisfying, the free roaming experience will get old fast. If you spend a lot of time driving, then the driving had better be fun. If you spend a lot of time shooting, then the combat needs to be engaging. Put simply, whatever the focus of the game is, it needs to remain fun when you're free roaming. This is easier said than done. Gameplay can quickly become stale or repetitive without the context or structured level design of the story mode. Grand Theft Auto 5 is an incredibly immersive open world, and there's a ton of mini-games, but after I completed the story, I just couldn't get into it anymore. GTA 5 is a game that focuses on crime, on stealing, and on generally being a jerk. In the story mode, all of this is contextualized with interesting characters, a comedic narrative, and level design tailored around the mission you're in. In short, the story mode is fun to engage with. But surprisingly, when you're free roaming, the game becomes a lot more restrictive. The police are a pain to deal with. It's tedious to escape from them, it's not worth fighting them, and no matter how inconspicuous you're being or how far you are from civilization, you're bound to get a 2-star wanted rating the moment you fire off your pistol. What is this, some kind of metaphor? Now, I'm not saying they should let you do whatever you want with no restrictions. That would be too easy. But in Grand Theft Auto 5, the core gameplay loop became more of a chore than a game for me. Regardless of anything else, if it's not fun to commit crime in a game about criminals, you're not going to have a good time. Not to beat a dead horse, but if we're talking about a free roaming experience with satisfying gameplay, we need to look once again at Red Dead Redemption. This is a game that was built from the ground up to have a satisfying free roaming experience, and it all feeds back to the core gameplay loop. Red Dead Redemption is a game about fighting outlaws in the Wild West, or being an outlaw yourself. When free roaming, you have numerous opportunities to engage in these activities, and it never feels restrictive or punishing to do. Bounty hunting missions encourage you to go off the beaten trail and explore, while giving you an excuse to fight bad guys as well. There's always someone to save or someone to fight in the various random encounters you come across in the wilderness. If you're an outlaw yourself, fighting off the law is actually enjoyable. They aren't constantly on your tail, but they'll find you at the most random moments. They come at you in increasingly large and organized waves, and each time it feels like the final showdown in a classic western. I don't feel frustrated free roaming in this game. I don't feel like I have to restrict myself to avoid being punished. I feel excited, giddy, and ready to see what's next. That's the feeling every free roaming experience should provide, a sense of wonder and exploration, of living a life in a virtual world. So why did I decide to talk about this? I love open world games. I can't get enough of them, but I think we can all agree that they're everywhere now. For better or worse, open world games are the next big thing, and there's so many ways to get them wrong. As they become more mainstream, it's essential that we understand what makes them work, what makes them fail, and what we can do to make them better. But hey, that's just my opinion. So what do you think makes a good free roaming experience? What are your favorite open world games? Which ones do you like the least? Let me know in the comments. If you like this video, why not watch some more? Hit that like button and check out my Patreon if you want to help keep the channel going. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.